of a sneaky snake, yeah.
Hey everybody, I know it's been a long time since my last upload, probably since around Halloween, somewhere around there. Just wanted to do a little recap of what's been done over the last year, what I have left to do in the spring and future plans, I guess. So where I left off was dealing with the rust on the roof. I've gotten everything primed, but I still need to sand. Right now, at the time of this posting, we're getting into late January, early February. Still too cold for me to want to get out here and deal with that, so I'll wait till it gets a little warmer. And once that gets taken care of, I still plan to wrap for now. Biggest thing I'm trying to figure out is if I want to keep it white on the top or maybe do like fake carbon weave or something like that. I don't know. It's up in the air. So that's where we left off. The other thing I had was the steering rack is definitely going bad. There's probably 2 inches of play in the steering wheel and it wanders a little bit when it gets on the highway. So after I started noticing a clunking sound when I would turn the wheel, like when I'm coming to a stop, took it in the garage and got under there and had my daughter wiggle the steering wheel so I could try and pinpoint where the clunking sound was. So it seems to be on the driver's side, but I want to take care of that. I kind of already knew it was already on its way out because it had a pretty substantial leak. You can see it in the video. It's kind of stained all over the front end of it and it's leaking from somewhere. So I'll swap that out before I get going again for next summer for the short season we have in Minnesota where you can actually take this thing out on the road. I'm waiting for the wheels and tires I want to be back in stock. I've been looking at the 03 Cobra style, the deep dish staggered setup. Anyway, they keep pushing the date back. It said mid-February and now they pushed it back to early March, so who knows when they're going to be in. My second choice, I guess, would probably be the 95 Cobra R style. Same thing, deep dish staggered setup. But we'll wait and see till one of those comes in stock. Other than that, I think the biggest thing I want to take care of is probably the bushings and the suspension. And that'll probably take care of most of the maintenance stuff. I still need to change the differential fluid. I still haven't changed that since I got the car. U-joints I'd probably like to take a look at as well. Other than that, as far as like fun stuff that I want to do, I still want to lower it because it'll still have that stupid monster truck stance that these things come with from the factory. So I would like to drop that about 1.5 inches or 2 inches. I think that's all I have really planned in the short term. Obviously the long term stuff is a ways off still. I still want to put a supercharger on this thing. But that's basically the recap. Suspension bushings all around, new steering rack, finish up primering and sanding down so I can wrap the roof, and I think that's pretty much going to do it. Exhaust, that was the other recap I forgot, was the exhaust. I got kind of lazy and I didn't really document much of that, but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's a million YouTube videos of that. It's not much more than either removing hardware if it's easy enough to get off, otherwise just hacking it off, which is what I ended up doing. But that's really all I have. So I'll update when I start doing more work on it, but like last year, just gotta wait till it gets warmer because I'm not standing out in this garage there's no heat and it's 5 below. No thanks. So we'll see you soon. I'm gonna be getting rid of this old Flowmaster system. It's over 20 years old. You've got hardware, at least in my case, how the previous owner had the exhaust put on. There's actual hardware from the muffler up to the flow tube. There's the flange right there, and then that's the H pipe from there. So I'll just be disconnecting this hardware right here and here, and then I'm going to cut right here with the angle grinder. Same on the other side, of course. The Mustang's got dual exhaust, so you got 2 pipes to work with. And we'll check back in.
Mess around with some of this rust remover. Try to deal with some of this surface rust. Okay, how do you? Yeah, deal with the surface rust. One thing I'll say is you're supposed to clean this loose rust to begin with, and I already did that just off camera, but I just took like a scuff pad, some wire wool to loosen that up, and then sprayed it down with this rust remover, and you're supposed to just let it sit for a bit. I think the container says for like 48 hours or something. Maybe not that much, I don't remember. Have to look at it. Anyway, I watched a few YouTube videos before I decided to try this, and I'm getting this from an actual auto body shop that did this, so I like to think that I'm getting proper advice. The battery ran out, but yeah, basically I just soaked these towels and stuck them on top of the rust to let it do its thing. And once we pull this back, we're just gonna work this. Like, that ate a lot of it off just sitting there. I didn't even have to do anything. But after that's been sitting for a while, we'll pull this back, and I have some fine steel wool. This is wow, look at that. That's pretty wild. I'm gonna let that sit longer, I don't know. But I have some fine steel wool to help work out the rest of that stuff, whatever might be sitting there still. And hopefully that should get it all up, and it shouldn't really take much for this car, because this is just surface rust and it's not very old. It's probably a year at best for the most part. So I don't think this is going to require like a ton of sanding and various grits and whatnot. If it had been more deep settled rust, I think, yeah, we'd be dealing with various grit levels and what have you. But I'm just going to work this around and see if, yeah, that works. That has really taken it up. Oh, dude. I had no idea it would be
this easy. Like I would have done this a long time ago. That was always the one thing, like this rust up here just made this car look like such a piece of crap. So it's really cool to see this going away. Whatever I end up doing, painting or wrap, it's most likely going to start as wrap, but this area of rust goes right up to this piece of trim, and from what I've read, you cannot buy this piece of trim separately. You have to actually remove the windshield and destroy this in the process. But it seems like there's no other way to get underneath there, but thankfully, from what I can tell, I can still see the factory paint, like a very fine, you know, like a millimeter or two of a little ridge of paint that runs right alongside there. So with any luck, that rust hasn't penetrated underneath that. I really hope that's true, because I can't warrant, at least not yet, paying, you know, however many $100s to have somebody come out here and professionally remove the windshield and put a new trim piece in just so that I can get to that rust area. If there is rust under there, I can't tell, but it looks like I'm maybe good. I'm not a body man, and I'm probably doing this all wrong. I'm sure there's a million people in the comments right now screaming, "What are you doing, you freaking idiot?" But hey, I'm learning. We all gotta start somewhere. And I want to learn to do this by myself. It looks like I'm probably gonna need to throw a second coat of this on. I've worked a lot of it off, but yeah, I think we're gonna need a little bit more. So my plan here is get rid of this rust and blend as best I can. From the research that I've done, I've read that vinyl wrap doesn't tend to cling to primer alone, or at least not very well. That's just what I've read online. So what I'm going to do after I get rid of this rust is I'm going to prime it and sand down as needed, and then coat it in clear coat. This is what I've seen a lot of people saying, is put some clear coat over it so that you have a better sticking surface for the vinyl wrap. So that's the plan. I would say what I was saying about this particular rust not being very old, it's like a half-truth. I don't remember exactly where it started, but it did start small. Like it was like a bit of that factory paint flaked off, and it started off, you know, like this small. And over time, driving and water, it just peeled further back, so the rust spot just spread and got wider. So you can kind of see, it's kind of like rings of a tree. When you chop a tree down, you can kind of see the established rust and then where the paint flaked off, and then you got the new section, and I'm finding these hard lines as I'm going that are staying, that kind of age the rust. So obviously the stuff from the middle is the older stuff, and that's taken a little bit more effort, because yeah, this came off like nothing, and it's getting a little bit tougher as I go in. So I think this stuff is going to need to soak a little bit longer. But yeah, patience and perseverance, and I think that'll take care of this. Alright, so I'm back the next morning. Wanted to let some of this more settled in rust get eaten up. And looks like I made the right call. I don't see any rust at all. Except for right here, so I'll probably hit that again. Wow, man, this stuff really works. So I think all we're gonna do now at this point is just wash this excess off, and then get the abrasive pad and clean all this area, and that should be ready for the clear coat. But of course I'm gonna wait till I get the rest of this paint off and deal with this rust that's on the sills. That's a whole other project, because you have to take this piece of trim off. But yeah, making pretty good progress. Alright, I'm doing the not correct way of doing this. Usually people would sand this. I just had this scraper lying around, and it's coming off pretty easy. I'm not putting really any pressure on it. It's just grabbing the ridge of the paint here and just peeling it right off. So I don't know, it's kind of satisfying, mindless work. Yeah, if I had to put any kind of pressure on this, I wouldn't be doing it. Would be gouging out the metal. But yeah, I don't think I'm really hurting anything. I'm sure there are plenty of paint and body guys who be like, what are you doing? I expect that for pretty much anything I do with this car, there's always going to be somebody that knows better. I'm not saying they're wrong, but you know, it's not like I'm messing with this insanely rare car or anything. It's not that special. Alright, so here's what I got going on right now. I've gotten rid of this rust with the removal stuff, the phosphoric acid, and we're down to the metal, and it is really smooth, and that was with very little sanding. I can't remember the recommendations that I've seen. It kind of varies, but seems like usually they're saying start with like 120 grit and then like 220 and 320, somewhere around there. And that's what I'm going to be doing. And I really don't know with how thick, with how smooth this is. I may skip the 120 because it's hard to tell really any difference between the primer and when I get to the metal here. But I'm gonna start with the 220, I think, for sure, and I'll go from there. Once I get that done, I think, yeah, I'll probably just spray it with primer and then resand, and hopefully it'll be ready for wrap or paint, whatever I end up doing. One thing to keep in mind is when you're sanding, you don't want to stop on one place and hold it there, because you're going to start digging into the metal and you'll have totally inconsistent surface. So just make sure you keep it moving. One more pass of 320 grit, and then I'll clean it off, and then we'll probably spray primer on there. Alright, so we got a sheet of 320 on here, so we'll give this one more pass, and then I'm going to call it good. Okay, so wiggle the wheel back and forth.